Now they change. What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Jackie Clark, and welcome to Creative Class Entrepreneurs. We are here today to have a very important and special conversation about brand laws, legally protecting your creative business. And with me today, I have the one and only beautiful Ivy McNeil. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jackie. I'm excited.
Yeah, so I want to get into all the goods, but before we get into that, I know you are in the law business, in the law industry. So can you let us know a little bit about yourself and about what you do?
Sure, absolutely. So I am what we consider a business and trademark attorney. I work with predominantly small business owners, creative entrepreneurs, independent professionals, and I assist them with specifically finding ways to protect their brand, finding ways to leverage their business assets, and also protect their personal assets in the meantime. I do trademark registration, copyright registration, contracts, legal consulting. I do it all. I absolutely enjoy every moment.
I love that. And, we need to get into all of it because, as myself, as a creative entrepreneur, I know as a creative is the first thing on my mind. So, the first thing I think of is how do I do the design and I want to make the brand look pretty, but we tend to forget about the business of our business. We don't be
Mhm.
minding our own business. And I mean that the way I said, mind your business, the business that
Right.
you mind it and tend to it because we get into a lot of trouble sometimes because we're so focused on the brand look and feel, we forget to mind our business. So the actual business side of things and then the legal side of things. So
Right.
let's start with the first things first. What legal steps should one take to protect their creative business when they're starting out, or if they've had their business for a long time? What is one thing they can do to start protecting their business?
The number one thing I would say is always start with trademark registration. If you are just starting, then what you want to do is you want to at least initiate that trademark registration process to make sure that your business name is available. A lot of business owners think of it from the perspective of, I don't want anybody to take my great idea. I don't want anybody to steal my business name. I don't want anybody my logo, but they forget that without doing proper clearance, you could potentially and unintentionally be using someone else's trademark, and that opens your business up to some costly setback lawsuits you don't want to be involved in. It's an entire headache, right? And if you are operating a business already and you've been in, operating a business for several months or years, and you've already launched, it's not too late for you to jump in and just clear that name, make sure it's available, secure what we call that Circle R status to make sure that it's exclusively your business name. No one else can come in and take it away from you, and you don't have to worry about lawsuits as you invest time and money into building it out.
That's really important because I know I had some names and some ideas, and I noticed
Yes.
the trend now. All of a sudden, people will come up with a name and they're quick to buy the website, register,
Yep.
trademark the business, and a lot of people have a lot of registrations and trademarks underneath their name. So, what are the different types of legal protections available for creative entrepreneurs?
Definitely, like I mentioned, trademark registration. You also want to consider the copyrights that are available, the copyright protections available to you. And a lot of creative entrepreneurs and independent professionals, almost everyone operating a business has some sort of copyright protection available to them. So, for instance, I'll lay it out for you. Trademarks are going to cover your business name, your logo, your slogans, or your taglines, right? The copyrights are going to cover your brand photo. Y'all love a good photo shoot, right? So we hire the photographer, get glammed up, we look good, we shoot the photos, but we don't realize that even though I've hired this photographer, I need to make sure that they transfer those copyrights to me so I can use them, own them, and share them. Because otherwise, the original creator, that brand photographer, is the original owner of that. And that's a piece that we see come up a lot when we talk about different types of lawsuits, different levels of protections available to business owners, because almost everyone is going to go through that branding process. And those are the two that you definitely want to pay attention to. In addition to that, I would say contracts. You making sure that you have a good firm foundation and an understanding of what your contracts read, what they make you obligated to do, and whomever you're working with, what they're obligated to do under those contracts.
That's interesting. Very, very, very good to know. One thing I remember hearing this years ago when I started my business. They said like a form, and please tell me if this is right or wrong. I don't really know, but I remember
Sure.
hearing you could do a form of like self copywriting or self protection where you would mail yourself. You're already shaking
No,
your
ma'am. No, I'm going to stop you right there. No, ma'am. So I remember when that was going viral, it was in heavy rotation on Instagram. And I get the premise behind it, right? You want to be able to establish that you came up with an idea at a certain date or time, right? But there are certain requirements to enforcing your copyrights. And one of those things is having a copyright registration. So you can mail yourself, notice, you could write it down in a journal, but the moment someone takes your photos or your Instagram post or your website design and copies it and uses it as their own, in order for you to file a lawsuit, you have to have a formal registration on file with the USPTO. I'm sorry, not the US Copyright Office, right? And that is so you can enforce without a shadow of a doubt the record of ownership, right? Because it's going to list you as owner. It's going to list that there's no dispute about who created what first. And then there's no he, she said, or who had first. There's no back and forth in the court system. It's very plain and simple. You can enforce your rights very easily. So no, do not do, I think they call it the poor man's copyright. We don't want to do anything poor around here, right? We're not claiming that in 2023.
Poor man, because I have, but that was like, oh man, that was early 2013, 12 or earlier. Like I did that years ago. And I'm like, I'm gonna protect myself because that's what you do. But now we know we have to really get it together. One of the things I've been coming across a lot lately is a lot of women in particular. I haven't come across too many men in this yet, but I'm sure there's a ton. And I don't believe this is a thing here in Canada, but LLC. I've been hearing this a lot lately. A lot of everybody's like, I got an LLC. How do we get one? What is an LLC, and does everybody need one?
So an LLC is a sort of business structure. So it's called a limited liability company. The purpose of an LLC is to protect your personal assets while you're conducting business. So it's supposed to act as essentially a shield. Something happens in business and the business gets sued, they're not able to cross that threshold and come after your home, your car, your personal financials, all of that. You can kind of protect yourself. The thing about an LLC is I think it is just one of those things that everyone is aware that they need without fully understanding the different pros and cons to having an LLC compared to setting up a corporation, compared to setting up a partnership. There's different business structures that exist, and all of them have different tax benefits, different levels of exposure, different pros in regards to how you want to build your business, how you want to grow and expand. And so here, on Instagram or social media, or, you hear the coaches saying, okay, the very first step is the LLC. So you just automatically assume that that's the best business structure for you. But my advice is always to connect, with a legal counsel and your CPA, get them both on the phone so they can at least have a conversation about your goals, because ultimately your goals are going to influence what business structure is best for you.
And what is a CPA for those who don't know?
A CPA is a certified business accountant. So someone is handling bookkeeping, your accounting, they're filing your taxes for you. They're keeping up with all of your, making sure you're in compliance and all of your tax liabilities.
Love that. Okay, see, we're learning some things because, like I said, I believe a lot of us as creatives get into the space of creating a business. Like I remember years ago, I started a clothing line because I started to study fashion design, and it was called Vixen Couture. And I remember I loved the name. It was so cool. I had a V with a foxtail. It was so dope. And I remember somebody hit me up and like, oh, is it the same business? Because somebody else had created the company. Couture. It was a clothing line, but I knew I established mine first, but I kind of fell off of it because I'm like, I don't want the same brand name as somebody else. I don't want the confusion of doing that. And that brings me to a topic. So I've noticed a lot of celebrities. It's been in the media, and we're going to talk about Miss Beyonce, the Queen Bee. Swarm, don't come for me. I'm just making a public notice. Okay, the Hive, relax. Before Beyonce had all her kids, she went, and the rumor was that she went and trademarked and licensed all of the registrations for the kids' names, so no one could go ahead and take that. And I don't know if you deal a lot with the celebrity space, but is that a common thing that these celebrities are doing, is going around and taking all the businesses and whatever so people can't profit off their kids' names? Is it a thing?
No, I think it's not even just a celebrity thing. It's just a strategic method, right? And it's something that I implement with a lot of my clients. Some of them do have influential celebrity status and others are, founders to be, right? The key takeaway from Beyonce's strategic move is that she filed for trademark registration before she even started a business with her daughter's or her children's name. Right. And so that is what I always tell my clients to do. If I can catch you before you even launched, you're in a better position than anyone else will ever be, because now you can invest the resources into securing that name before you even shared it with the public, before you launched, and you know that name is exclusively yours. No one else can come in and use it and take it away from you. And you have full reign on how you use it and how you manage and police how other people use it. So I think for celebrities, they just have immediate access to legal counsel that's always in their ear, right? That's giving them those tips. But it's true for business owners on any level, right? If you have a new product that you're getting ready to launch and it's already a part of an existing business, that product name could be a trademark that we file under an intent to use trademark application. That means you get a full year to build out that product, packaging, the marketing, and all of that, while the USPTO, the trademark office, is reviewing it and confirming that it can exclusively be yours.
Good to know.
So that's the strategy.
So for those who are listening in the chat, if any of this resonates with you, I want you to drop a target emoji in the chat, because Ivy is hitting it on the head right now, getting us the goods. And I mean, if you guys have already started your business like myself and you haven't done certain things, or you haven't, you're not in the process, this is that kick in the butt to get started, start that process before you get to, way too far in your business where you don't know and you have to rebrand and restart all over again. So this is, that thought for those who are starting and those who have already started to get it together. So one of the things that's kind of common on social, and I see it all the time, is, and you see all these TikTok creators in particular, coming out the woodwork saying, I created that. Like, I'm not getting my recognition. You've stolen this. You're getting popular from this. And this was me. How do we as creatives protect our original creative works from being copied or plagiarized? Like, how do you go about protecting that, especially if you're doing a viral, you do a TikTok dance that goes viral, or you're cool?
Yeah. I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, there was a group of Black young dancers that were coming up with all of the viral dance moves that we were seeing, and we were seeing non-Black influencers on TikTok being, pushed to the head of the algorithm and giving credit for these creative dances. It whole movement, honestly, and a bigger conversation about copyrights, because dance moves, creative works like that are that you can't copyright. And it brings me back to what we discussed earlier. Like, one of the main things that you have to do is understand what protections are available to you first and foremost, right? Depending on what you're trying to protect. It's as simple as just hopping a line with, an IP attorney or a business attorney and just having a consultation. I know I offer free consultations. I know a ton of other attorneys that do it, and that will at least give you an introduction to what type of brand protection strategies are available for you. But once you've taken those steps to protect your creative work or your creative content, you now have to choose how you're going to police it, right? Because there's some benefit with it going viral. There's brand awareness available to you. There's brand recognition. On some platforms, you can get paid, right? So it's in your benefit for people to copy and redo and remix and reuse, right? But there's also ways that you can maintain the integrity of your work by saying, okay, you guys are permitted to use this so long as you do it with XYZ. And we're talking about licensing, right? You can let people use your work. You can let people copy your work and reproduce it or remix it. And, this applies to a lot of different things outside of social media. But licensing is a good mechanism where you can monetize your creative work and allow people to reuse it without losing the status as the original creator.
Mm. And I would say too, if you have an opportunity to watermark or add your logos in your video somewhere that it can't be cropped out as easily. Because I
Yeah.
mean, yes, there are magicians out here that know how to
I
delete
know.
and do all that. But if you're able to add your watermark, which is your at name on social media, so people could tag you, um,
Yes.
that goes a long way. And then also just do a humanly duty. Like if you know that this belonged to Ivy, she was the one that said it, it takes 3 seconds to at her and be like original content creator and all of that. Like I remember, for instance, I remember the Shade Room. They're really good at trying to get their source, but I remember one of our reporters here in Toronto. He became viral over something he had said in a newscast, and he's a
Yeah.
black man, so he made a comment, and I'm Caribbean, so it's like the Caribbean community related to it, and it blew up all over TikTok and all over the world. And it was on the Shade Room, and I literally saw it, and I literally DM'd and said, "Hey, this is great. Please tag him." Like his, and they immediately was like, "Cool, bet, no problem." Tagged him,
Right.
and then he got some of the recognition that he deserves. And it takes nothing to see something that you know belongs to somebody else and give them that credit.
Mhm.
So those small things kind of helps protect you if
Yeah.
others. uh,
Absolutely. And to that point, if you do see someone misusing your creative content or, using something and claiming that they're the original creator, you can always reach out. I always recommend that screenshot, get the record, save it, document it, because in some instances, everyone is not so open and amenable to giving you credit. They'd rather block you. So you want to be able to start building your case as soon as you see it, or right before you reach out to ask them to at least give you credit.
Absolutely. Screenshot it, record
Mhm.
it. If you're noticing the conversation's getting kind of fuzzy,
Yep,
record, get it together, because when they block you, it's real hard to
exactly.
get that information back. And then anybody can say anything. But when you have that timestamp on the top of your phone, when
Mhm.
you have that screenshot, it's real hard to disapprove this notion, right?
Exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit about lawsuits and legal disputes. Like, so, sometimes creators, we find ourselves in some sticky situations. And so, what should you do if you are presented with somebody saying, hey, like they're going to take legal action with you? Because some people say it as a form of a threat, like they just want you to
Yeah,
take it down. Like, I'm gonna call my lawyer and I'm gonna get this done. And so some people it's a scare tactic, so they get scared and they take it down. But what if it actually is a follow through and they're like, listen, they present you with, a note from a lawyer or something. What do you do in that case? Because some of us may not have the money.
yeah.
It's disheartening. You're scared. So what is the next step someone should take if they are presented with potential lawsuit or legal dispute?
Yeah, absolutely. And it happens a lot. You're right. Some people have empty threats all the time. They make empty threats all the time. But I think that despite what we may have heard or what we may think about that person, I think it's important to take every sort of demand letter, every cease and desist, every legal conversation very seriously. Because what happens is if you don't take it seriously, you're giving that person the upper hand to at least start establishing their case, and then you're on the back end having to play defensive the whole time, right? And you never want to be in that position. So I would always recommend that you reach out to an attorney, you explain the situation just to get a gauge on how much exposure you have. Maybe there is no exposure. Maybe there's something that you don't know about what they're saying that they wouldn't be able to establish, right? At least having that conversation will give you the opportunity to make a more informed decision about whether or not you need to reallocate funds to hire an attorney, or if you can just disregard it, right? Because in some instances you may get that type of advice from me or another attorney. Say, hey, I recommend that you just wait for a second. Let's see if they actually move forward. There's no need for you to expend money right now. We'll see what happens in a few weeks or a month's time. But ultimately you got to have that conversation. You can't ignore it.
Mhm. And can we talk about how, because a lot of us get jumped to the gun, where a lot of us are, I don't want to say trigger happy, but we finger happy. We just want to quickly
Mhm.
grab our phone and, oh, Ivy McNeil's trying to sue me. She did it.
Mhm.
How can your ego cause more issues because you want to react? Like I tell people all the time, for
Yes.
every action, there's a reaction, right? And so
Mhm.
for every reaction, there is a follow up reaction. So how can social media damage or hurt your case?
Absolutely. Because everything that you put out on social media is public. Even if you think you have, even if you have a private account, the minute you post it, now everyone that is currently following you has access to that, to save it, to share it, to archive it, to repost it somewhere else, right? So you can't control where that live video is going, where that post is going, where that rant is going. And without being fully aware of the parameters of the case, you may be giving away details that they wouldn't have had otherwise. Or you could be potentially agitating a situation when maybe they were willing to just let it go, but now their ego's involved and they've hired an attorney. And I'll be honest with you, the one thing about litigation in the US is that I find unfortunate is that it doesn't always have to be, causes of actions that have evidence and proof. People can sue you for almost anything, and you still have to pay something to get out of it, whether it's hiring an attorney to respond or taking time away from your business to show up in court to defend yourself. There's time and money that's going to be expended, even if it's not a valid claim. And so if you can control your emotions and just hold your cards close to your chest and just remain objective and strategic, you could probably save yourself a lot of headache and come out on the winning end.
So yeah,
granted, you're not in the wrong, right?
right. Can't be wrong and strong.
Right.
It's a good notion that, as frustrating as it could be, even and as you notice, like a lot of celebrities I've noticed because I work in the space, they've started reacting to stuff, but you'll hear a lot of them take a long time to react because it's their publicist, it's their lawyer, it's their team telling them, hold on, like I know you want to say something, but I promise you sometimes sitting back and letting everybody else make the noise can support you in a long run, because it's that one thing you said that the judge will turn around and be like, well, that's it. Or you lied about, you said something on social, but then you're lying to the judge about it and you're counteracting yourself. So I know our egos get involved when it comes to our business, when it comes to our brand name and our pride, but sometimes take a step back, call an attorney, ask for free counsel quickly, see if you get at least a little bit of advice before you make a move. That was something I really wanted to talk about because I see it happen all the time. And I'm like, oh man, if you just stopped with the noise, wouldn't have held this.
Media is one of the first places we go.
Yes.
When when a client comes to us and says, this company was misusing my stuff. Okay, I'm gonna look at the website. I'm gonna look at social media, and I'm gonna see what are they saying. How are they talking about it? How are they presenting it? And all of that can be used against you.
Absolutely. So there's a lot. Everybody's into the collaboration stage. We collaborate with other businesses, collaborate with other lawyers, other influencers or lawyers. You never know.
Right.
But are there any legal considerations we should take when entering into a collaboration with another influencer or a collaboration with a brand? Because I know some brands I've worked with have sent me or sent my clients contracts, but some brands go on a word of mouth, like, hey, like for instance, you and I reached out to you. This is a word of mouth type of contract. I said you're going to do this. I said I'm going to do this. So should there be a contract? Should there be things like, how do we go into collaborations?
I think that if there's going to be a long-standing business relationship, there should always be a contract. Even if, you do one-off, exchanges, whether it's, a live together or, a co-branded event, that it doesn't hurt to have something in writing, right? And you can have something to reuse all the time. It's, don't be afraid to use a template. It can have all of the terms that you ordinarily agree to. You can modify it and change the rate or the dates or, customize it based on the relationship of the person that you're working with, but always have something so that way you can at least refer back to it in the event things don't turn out the way that you hoped, right? Co-branding is one of those things that I absolutely love. I love to see creative entrepreneurs collaborating, right? There's really some important factors that you have to consider. And one of those is your IP, right? So you come into the situation already having your own intellectual property, Jackie. Like, it doesn't matter who you're working with, right? Let's say you and I do a partnership. Well, I have my own intellectual property as well. Well, we need to discuss if we're creating a new business name or a new event name, or, we're doing a new product, who owns that new intellectual property? And in the midst of our marketing, am I permitted to use your intellectual property that you've already established as your own, right? And if so, how am I permitted to do that? Because you don't want to give me full reign to use your business, and maybe it's off brand, or maybe I'm using it in spaces you wouldn't ordinarily like, right? So how the IP is going to be used, who's going to own the new IP, is one of those big conversations that entrepreneurs don't think about. And
Yes.
then also, how do we dissolve this? What happens when it's all said and done? Because even though the business relationship may be over or the event may be over, you guys may still be yielding money or influence or opportunities from it. And you just want to make sure that people don't feel slighted after it's all said and done. I don't want to feel like, I worked with this person and they got all the contacts and all the network, and I don't have anything. And in some cases, you may be the one who has all the network. So you want to protect that and say, I just want to make sure that when I work with you, you're not going to reach out to my people and take opportunities that would otherwise be mine. So those are things that you have to talk about before you get excited about the new opportunity and jump in. It's really important because they end up being disputes afterwards.
You know what? As you're talking about it, I feel slightly attacked because, uh, because I am such a collaborative person. I'm always like, yeah, let's work.
Mhm.
But it's interesting because as of lately, nothing has happened. But
Yeah.
I had entered into a project with a few other people, and it's been great. But I noticed I did the design work, the creation of the name. I have the bulk of the contacts. I have this, and yes, we got publicity and certain things from it. And the person I am is like, my name's on the bulk of it because I'm the only one with an agency, right? And
Mhm.
but I always think of these things. What happens if I decide I don't want to do it with those people anymore, or they don't want to do it with me? What did we do? I created the name. I created the social. I designed everything. Is it
Mhm.
mine, or is it because it was a collaborative idea? Even though I created the brand name, the slogan, did all the decks, it was a collaborative effort. So it's interesting that you say these things because again, we get so trigger happy to just,
Mhm.
oh God, Ivy reached out to me. She has all these followers. I want to work with her. And we
Right.
think about oh, well, Ivy has the bigger name. So she's all of a sudden getting all the bigger pull. And oh, I feel slighted. So I think even from an event side of things, a brand collaboration side of things, a one-on-one influencer to influencer, you have to think about what are we doing? And if it's a joint collaboration, is it 50-50? Like who's
Right.
responsible? And if that's the case, if you want to be fair, yeah, everybody can pay for the website, the logo. We split the cost the
Exactly.
same way and we all have something. So I definitely love that concept. I wanted to ask, and I know we could be here all day, so we have a few minutes, so we're gonna get through some things. But you know, um, I want to talk about intellectual property in terms of rights such as patents, trademarks, trade
Mhm.
secrets. Like if I was creating a beauty brand, and say for instance you are a manufacturer, and I got to talk to you. Okay, I want to do this, but I have an idea. I want to use guava instead of this. What if we have all these really cool ideas that will be $1 million maker? But in order to do the job, I have to tell somebody because I
Mhm.
clearly can't do it alone. But I'm so afraid to say something because I
Mhm.
don't want this person who's in a business to do it because they have the resources, they have the money, they have the time. How does an entrepreneur, how do we get out of that state? Because I've had so many ideas personally that I've wanted to share and I haven't because I'm just
Yeah.
like, I know if I open my mouth and say something, like this will be taken, and then what grounds do I have to stand on? Because we were just having a conversation. So what do
Yeah.
you do with that?
So one of the things, especially when you're dealing with confidential information, is you have to kind of take a step back and plan these sorts of conversations. So let's say you're meeting with someone, put the meeting on your calendar, right? That's a paper trail that you have now met with this person, right? Because what you're going to have to establish if they take your confidential information and use it as their own is that they actually had contact with you to gain those details. So you have to be able to prove that. And then also, you can put, you don't have to do a formal NDA that, is 4 or 5 pages long that, basically limits their correspondence with anybody else. Because a lot of times when those businesses or investors have leverage, they're not going to give you the time of day. They're like, we don't have to do this. You need us. We don't need you. Good luck. Right. However, you can be very strategic about the information you share. So, like using your example, maybe it is guava that is the key ingredient. Don't say guava. Say something else, say something, there's a key ingredient that has these sort of properties, that has this sort of impact. And that way you're giving them enough for them to understand the entire concept without really giving away the confidential process and secrets. because in order to maintain trade secret level protection, you got to keep it a secret. You
Mhm.
can only tell certain people around you. You have to be able to enforce or show proof that it is a well kept secret and that you haven't published it to this person who then told that person. So it is something that you just have to be very mindful of. But I think that ultimately, you just have to know who you are dealing with. If
Mhm.
it's something that is you think is going to be, $1 million idea, then maybe you should be a little bit more careful with who you decide to share it with, or build it out first and then share it. Invest your own time and money first so that you don't run the risk of someone else with more capital taking your idea and launching it before you.
Absolutely. And I would also add to that, and please, I'm not a lawyer, but please
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, because some things from a public relations standpoint, when
Mhm.
we do things, and I build a lot of decks. So a lot of my business, I build a lot of pitch decks, sponsorship decks for clients. They come to me with their ideas for their conferences, and
Right.
I'm creating helping them support their intellectual property and building it out. But also when you're presenting stuff, a lot of times people are like, okay, put everything in writing, give me a deck. Be very careful.
Oh,
Create one sheet. Be very
mhm.
careful. And if you're going to present, you know, people can screenshot these days from their phone or from their computer, do whatever. But put, like you said, very limited information in your decks. In what you're saying to them. I talk too much. I've noticed that, especially when it comes to ideas. I get excited, so I've been
Mhm.
learning to like slow down and be like, hey,
Yes.
or have somebody that you trust that could help check you when you're doing too much. They could give you a little pinch in the knee, or kind of stop you in that process, because you have to also know to monitor yourself. um
Absolutely.
Yes. And so I did want to talk about two last things. One of them being, and I'll get you to answer this first. You know, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everything is photo and music ready, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of copyright issues with using photos and music in particular. Like, I know I could do a reel, not a reel, a post a story with music, but when I download it, the music's gone because
Yep.
you don't have the copyright for that, right? So, what are some of the legal implications of using third party content in creative work, such as images or music, without permission?
Yeah, so that's a great question because we do see that so frequently. And I think people have this idea that if everybody else is doing it, it must be okay.
Mm,
Right. So, to speak to your example with the music issue is really it's really really predominant, right? Because people misunderstand how it works. So Instagram, or TikTok, or any other social media outlet has the license. They are the owner of the license, so they've partnered with the studios, production, companies, and they said, okay, we're going to pay you this much money to be able to use your music on our platform, right? It serves both the artists and the platform. But as the user, you do not have the right to reproduce or reuse that music outside of the app itself. Now, another layer is if you are just a creator, who's just having fun on social media, you have access to a ton of music that's available to you, right? But the minute you cross over to a business account and you're using it for marketing, now you are not permitted to use your favorite Beyonce song, or, the latest Chloe Bailey song that you love, because you are now using their music to market and make money off of your product, which is a completely different type of license, right?
mm,
So a lot of people don't understand that. And if you actually were to look at the accounts, if you were to have a business account, you'd see those songs are not available to you because Instagram is trying to save you from yourself. They're trying
okay.
to save you from yourself and help you understand you cannot do that, right? So, one
Absolutely.
of the things I think people should really understand is that there's a lot of different ways to use different music when it comes to marketing their business. There's royalty free sites. There's a lot of sites where creators are sharing their music and happy to allow you to use it for marketing, but you have to have a firm understanding of what you're permitted to do and how you're permitted to use it, right? So on the app is good. In creator status, you can use all of the music. As a business, be mindful that you're not permitted to use certain songs. It needs to be that it has that original creator tag or something like that. And you can use some of those trending audios to market your business without putting yourself at risk. Now, when it comes to pictures, That's a whole nother ball game because everybody loves to pull from Pinterest. Everybody loves a good mood board. Everybody loves to get the vibe, right? People don't
Yeah.
understand that, as I shared earlier, the owner of the photos is usually the photographer or the client if those copyrights have been transferred to them. So even though they've posted it on Pinterest or you saw a photo on social media and decided to screenshot and reuse it without consent, your use is unlawful. There's no way around it. It doesn't matter if you say, copy tag the person who has the copyrights. I didn't know who had the copyrights. I don't own the copyrights. People love to put that in
Yeah.
the caption. That's not saving you. In fact, it's actually working against you because you're making a confession that you don't own this and you're
Mhm.
still using it. So you just have to be very careful. I always recommend that, if you want a certain look or aesthetic or vibe, make
Create.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, create it yourself. Hire someone to build out your own stock photos or go to, some of these other platforms that will give you the same vibe with photographers that are happy to share their work, for free or a nominal fee.
And that is so important to say because like I know there's influencers that I've worked with, that I've seen, and their photos are on sites for selling dreads. Like one of my past clients, her daughter, she has beautiful red locks, like
Mhm.
natural, like she dyed them bright red, but natural locks. She's on website. Her face is on
Mhm.
website selling full Amazon, all these things. I've also seen other stuff, and I'm just like, what in the world? I remember years ago I worked at this company in Toronto, shoe company, and there was a contest, like shoe nation, not nation, like countrywide, and my friend and I put and I we my Kenzie, the manager, she's the one who took it with her phone. So it's Kenzie's photo. Now that I'm knowing the terms, Kenzie was the one who took it, but she pregnant self got on the floor, took a picture, and it's my knee and
Mhm.
Corey's knee, and you see us both in Tim's. I had the Tim's heels, he had the Tim boots on because we took a thing and we won the contest. I've seen that photo all over Tumblr, and this was from 2013. We are
Wow.
in 2023. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen that photo. I can't tell you how many people have posted me in my bay or come
Mhm.
by my shoes. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, that's my foot.
Yeah.
The original full length, and it is and it's crazy. But now that you've said this, it made something known to me. That is not my photo. That is Kenzie's photo.
It's Kenzie's photo. Mhm.
Even though
Now
I own it,
yep.
I own
Mhm.
it. It's you when you see the whole thing, you see me, all of me, not with red hair, but you see all of me. But it's just clarified to me that that was Kenzie's photo, and now
Yep.
that makes me wonder when photographers and stuff. I've always been the type when I've worked with photographers for the most part. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, take the photo. I don't care. Like, I know you're going to do it. But I know if it's a great brand shoot, how much does it cost for me to get all of the photos? I want every single one, even the unedited ones. I want them all. And I want
Mhm.
rights because a lot of people, photographers will sell that
Oh, yeah.
to sites. And then all of a sudden it's like, I didn't give permission. You didn't have to. You signed over the contract or whatever you signed. So sometimes it costs to play, and sometimes if you want those rights, you have to pay to play.
Absolutely. And if you want to be able to manage your brand,
Mm,
you have to invest that money because I've seen instances where photographers have blown a launch for a client. They've done this photo shoot. It's supposed to be a launch that's happening in 2 months and no one knows about it. And the photographer thinking, I just want to share my portfolio, exposes what the client has been working on because they have the rights to those photos, right? And they can do that. And so you got to think from the perspective of like a high level executive when it comes to your business. Like I need to be able to see the full game plan. Like I don't want this person to be able to use it. This person has access. I need to make sure that they're hush hush. I need to make sure that I have full control over who has access and who can use all of these things that we're creating together.
so this is the perfect way to end this conversation. And I'm so again grateful for your time. But guys, this is a reminder. If you're doing a brand launch, you're creating anything, make sure you get in writing within your contracts with your photographer, videographer, social media managers, people who are hired to take content for you, models, everybody that we call it in PR, we call it an embargo. I don't know if it's the
Mhm.
same type of thing in the legal space, but it's an embargo where you can't release any information until a certain
Mhm.
date. I used to work in film PR, so we would do a screening for like a Black Panther or something months, like I'm talking now, and we're not debuting it until September, which is the Toronto International Film Festival, and all the journalists, media, influencers sign an embargo that they
Yep.
could write about it, they could do their write up now, but they cannot
Mhm.
release it publicly, talk about it, share it until a certain date, because obviously for spoiler reasons. So, and again, I don't know if that's the same term, but I know it from a media standpoint, embargo. So just make sure you put an embargo or some notice in place to
Right.
when people can share that information, especially if it's supposed to be classified and it's a launch. Um, and so, Ivy, how can people connect with you on social or visit you on your website to get information about you yourself, to seek legal counsel, or like, even to just book a call? How can people connect with you?
So you can find me on any social media platform at Legally Ivy. I am the founder and managing business attorney for Canary and Hedge, which is my law firm. So you can find us at www.canaryandhedge.com. And you can access me, with the free 15-minute consultation, or if you want to spend some more time with me and we really do a deep dive into your business and carve out the specific brand protection strategies that would be appropriate for you, we offer more comprehensive strategy sessions as well.
I am so grateful for this. This was a perfect conversation to have, because
Yes.
I love to talk about the creative, but I love to talk about the business and the realities that I think a lot of us creatives are getting into. And you're starting to see more and more people start talking about, hey,
Yeah.
guys, I was in this issues. Let me help you out. So now that, especially, us millennials and, this generation, we're in a space of we are in a creator space. We are
Mhm.
creating more opportunities, but with these opportunities, it's that saying, with great power comes
Great
great.
responsibility.
Exactly. So when you're
Mhm.
creating these brands, think of the responsibility you have, not to your brand, but the generational wealth you're creating, the family
Absolutely.
legacy that you're leaving, even to your own self. Do yourself the due diligence to, take the time to, I know I want to launch, but let me spend that year and get all the legal, the business plan, things that I messed up with when I first started my business. And I'm now going back to be like, let me create a proper business plan,
Right.
put
Mhm.
things in place, because I promise you, the things you do, you'll thank yourself later, your future self, for it. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Ivy, for being here. I'm so excited
Thank you for
that
having
you're
me.
willing to chat with us and share gems. Guys, if you love this, please drop targets in the chat. Check out Legally Ivy on Instagram and stay locked for
Mhm.
conversations. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye.